Hi, and welcome to this edition of the HealthHubble Podcast. My name is Kerry Plummer, and I'm the editor and content manager here at HealthHubble. Today, I'm delighted to introduce as my guest, Sam Lynch. Sam is a qualified personal trainer who specialises in functional, pain-free training and nutritional coaching. He works with a wide range of individual and corporate clients, both face-to-face from his private studio in Greenwich in London, as well as online. Passionate about supporting clients through achievable and sustainable goal setting, commitment and encouragement, Sam creates truly individual plans which not only build strength and fitness, but confidence too. So without further ado, welcome Sam. Thank you so much for joining me today.
No problem. Thank you very much. I couldn't have said that any better myself. So thank you for that introduction. Very thorough. Thank you for having me.
It's a real pleasure. So I guess for those people that are tuning in and don't necessarily know a huge amount about you, perhaps let's start with who you are and what you do.
Sure. So I'm my name's Sam Lynch. I work for my through my company Fitnitiative. So I'm a personal trainer both in person and sort of online as well. So as I said, I specialise in functional pain-free training, and essentially all that means is doing programs and providing programs for people that have a purpose in helping them build a strong body that they can sort of help them through life, sort of purposeful exercise, especially with the clients that I work with are mostly your corporate based clients, and they sit down a lot of the day. So creating programs for them helps them not only get stronger and fitter, but helps them move better in a way that sort of is relevant to them. We all have our similarities physiology wise, but there's also a lot of nuances there, and sort of helping them to really develop something personal to help them as an individual really. And I also specialize in nutrition, and for me this nutrition's more about the sustainable aspect. I'm not all about these fad diets or getting people down to sort of 2% body fat. It's helping them develop nutritional behaviors and habits, breaking down perhaps their current ones they've built up over X amount of years, to help them lose weight and get healthier really.
Wow, that's a huge amount. So you work with clients both face-to-face and online. What's the best bit about what you do?
So for me, it's seeing people go through a positive change. 9 times out of 10, when people sort of inquire with me and we start working together, they're in a place where they're fed up with certain things, fed up with the way they feel. Mostly, it usually comes back to a feeling, whether that being overweight or being in pain, uncomfortable, and a lot of people just reach a sort of breaking point, and that can have a real toll on how you feel as a person. For me, it's seeing people go through that positive change and become someone, I guess, happier and someone more confident and a better version of themselves. And that's where sort of that personal bespoke side comes in, because I help them to find things that are relevant to their lifestyles. Our lifestyles are all very different. We all do things very differently, and that can be impacted from things such as your culture to your socioeconomic status, and finding how we can make things work for them. And for me, it's seeing them become just happier people, more confident in themselves and self-belief, and they can do these things. I think when you first start a journey into fitness or weight loss, it can seem like a really massive goal. Sometimes it can seem quite unattainable, but then making really small changes over time that can have a big impact. That's what I really enjoy doing and sort of seeing in my clients.
You're so right. The start, when you're starting out, it can feel quite overwhelming. Now, before we came on, we were talking about New Year's resolutions and how now, kind of where we are in the year, some of those may be slipping, or some people may actually wait until this time of year to start thinking about those. Now, the top 3 will normally include exercising more, losing weight, and getting fitter. Having worked in the fitness industry for over a decade, why is it that so many of us will set these goals, but then might have a few problems in following that through to a longer term?
I think the biggest part for a lot of people is trying to do too much at once, and having we have this habit of putting off things in the future and saying, "Oh, we'll do it on Monday, I'll do it on Tuesday," or whatever it may be. And New Year's is the biggest representation of that, where people might get to October and they'll be like, "I'll just wait till New Year's." But in reality, it's like, what's actually going to change until that point where you feel like you're going to be in a place to do that? Especially changing your whole lifestyle from, I'm going to eat loads of different foods, I currently don't exercise, I'm going to start exercising 3-4 times a week. You're making all these massive changes in your life at once. And it's not only quite overwhelming, but it's just not realistic. And I think a lot of the time people will wait on a feeling of being motivated, and they'll wait for that and or a feeling of inspiration. But the thing is that it comes and goes. Motivation is a feeling, and we've all had times where we'll feel really motivated to do something, and then it just fades away. So it's key to sort of build habits and behaviors and sort of systems, and which at the end of the day comes down to being disciplined rather than being motivated. So I think a lot of people focus on, the outcome, I'm going to lose weight, rather than focus on the process, which is perhaps for them walking a little bit more. Instead of changing all of my meals, perhaps just start having more vegetables with my meals, focusing on protein in each of my meals, or eating less here. People try to do it all at once, so after a couple of weeks it fades away, and people just revert back to their old habits.
That's so true, and it's about breaking it down into sustainable measures that you can carry through. So when you start working with clients and you start looking at formulating a fitness plan, are there any tips or tricks that we could kind of look at adding to ours, that we can kind of then create more sustainable habits within our own fitness?
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, the first thing I will do with clients is see where they're currently at, and it's a big part of it is meeting the client where they're currently at. And if you're doing it yourself, it's meeting yourself where you're at and really having an honest conversation with yourself, and not beating yourself up about things. Not everyone is prepared or equipped to go from doing 0 days of exercise to then joining a gym, going to the gym 3 times per week. Is quite a big task for a lot of people. So what we will do is pick the lowest hanging fruit. What is the smallest and easiest thing that you can do today that will have the biggest impact on your goals? And that will change between people. For a lot of us, although still working from home, that could be just walking more. And that's something people overlook a lot of the time. Walking is one of the sort of foundational things I work on with clients. And if you're doing 1,000 to 2,000 steps per day, really we want to be getting up into sort of the 7 to 10k step mark. So we'll look at that and think, okay, how can we do that? Is it feasible? And how can we get that in? And then it's breaking it down again and saying, okay, instead of saying I'm going to do 7 to 10,000 steps, perhaps we'll say every morning we'll go for a 20-minute walk, and then you'll focus on that. And then the next week, maybe we'll make that walk a little bit longer, or we'll add in another walk. And, you focus on the processes once again, rather than the outcome. So yeah, for me, it comes back to picking the lowest hanging fruit, the smallest thing with the biggest impact. And for someone else, that might be a nutrition thing. And that could be really as simple as I'm going to not order takeaways this week. That could be the easiest thing for that person. Or it can be what I'm going to have with every one of my meals is a portion of vegetables with each of my meals. For some people, it may be joining a gym. You just don't know. They might have a gym around the corner and they may think, no, I've got time. That'll be the easiest thing for me to do. Maybe we can start off at once per week and then build up to twice per week. I think everyone will jump in at, no, I'm going to go 3-4 times per week. When in reality, if you've been 0 times now, what makes you think 3 to 4 times is going to be sustainable for you in the long term? You really have to layer things up. And that's how I work with clients, is I layer things on bit by bit, and things will get progressively harder, as it would with a training program in the gym. Sort of you really progress these habits and behaviors, and that way sort of you slowly break down old habits and you really start building up new habits and systems, and it just becomes a part of your life and your lifestyle.
Yeah, you're so right. It is looking about where you are at that point of starting. Now, you specialise in pain-free training, and for many of us, we may believe that feeling of discomfort when we exercise is the indicator of a really good workout. That old saying of no pain, no gain. But is that actually true? And what sort of warning signs do you look for when you're training with clients?
Yes, I think it's the difference between pain and discomfort. So, feeling sore from exercise is normal. Mm-hmm. Feeling sore in your muscles is normal. Especially if you first started working out. So if you're someone who's never worked out or used any weights before, you will feel sore, at least for the first couple of weeks. But, your body adapts to that, and you don't feel as sore. The main indicators of that are sort of novel exercises, so things you haven't done before or you don't do very frequently, or, we really increase the volume and the load of the weights that you're using. The pain side of things is, for me, when you say pain-free training, is when people are feeling pain that perhaps they shouldn't be. So a lot of that comes down to, say, joint pain. So pain in your shoulder joint, your knee joint, your hip joints. And obviously a massive one is your lower back. Most of the clients I work with will sit down up to half the day, really. So 8 hours at work, 2 hours in, 4 hours in the evening or whatever it may be. And lower back pain is a massive, epidemic. There's no real causative link to it, but, sitting is a common denominator throughout. So, for me, it's developing programs in which they don't feel pain, that doesn't exacerbate those issues. So I have clients who come with knee pain, and perhaps we're doing like a barbell back squat will irritate their knee pain. Is there another variation of that doesn't? And it's finding these exercises that people can do without these pain, and then focusing on those. The actual soreness aspect is pretty normal as long as it's felt in the muscles. The whole no pain, no gain, that's very 80s bodybuilding sort of esque. I think, it's not true. You can have plenty of workouts where you don't feel sore and you're still getting a lot out of them. You shouldn't be pushing to absolute failure each session either and absolutely destroying your body. It's not about going in the gym and just killing yourself and pushing through pain. If you feel pain in any of your joints, stop that exercise or look for an alternative that doesn't elicit that pain response. And I think over the years, it has brought about sort of a culture where people do that. And I done a post yesterday on injuries, and people see injuries sometimes as a badge of honor because I've worked so hard that I've gotten injured. But, in reality, it's not the case. It's just a little bit stupid and a bit reckless. So yeah, it's sort of realizing, feeling sore is an indicator of the workout, but it's not always an indicator of, how successful your workout has been. It really depends on the goals as well. If you're someone who is looking to build muscle, perhaps muscle soreness is an indicator that you have pushed that muscle to a point, where it will grow. However, if that is not your main goal, then if you feel sore all the time, maybe it's an indication of that you're just pushing it a little bit too hard in your sessions.
Yeah, no, that's really helpful advice. And I think you're quite right. When it comes to going to the gym, it's not about to the point of, absolutely rinsing yourself out. It's about that sustainable, being able to go back and being fit enough to go back and continue on that journey. Now, you touched on very briefly about a sedentary lifestyle. With so many of us working from home, it invariably means that we're possibly less active than we previously were. And you've authored some fantastic articles that we're so proud to host here at HealthHubble, one of which actually focuses on adding more movement into our daily lives to try and avoid that sedentary lifestyle. What benefits are there for us kind of getting more movement in our day-to-day activities?
Yeah, so movement-wise and exercise-wise, it just takes you from that baseline of sedentary to perhaps lightly active or active. And the main benefit of that is just sort of a positive increase or effect on health markers across the board, really. Your general health will improve from it. If you're not active at the moment, those who are sedentary do tend to be more overweight. Mm-hmm. And then sort of when you are overweight or pushing into sort of that obese category, that becomes with its own health risk factors as well. So that daily movement really does help to keep your weight in check, as long as obviously your nutrition is being looked at as well. That is, when it comes to weight loss, nutrition is the foundation of it. But for me, it's sort of health markers across the board. You will just feel genuinely healthier, mentally as well. There's a massive difference from going out and being active to sort of being sedentary. And people get caught in this cycle, and I see it all the time. If you sit down all of the day, don't do any activity, you don't feel like doing any activity, and you feel low in energy and you don't want to. Your body just gets used to this sort of comfort zone that you put it in. And it's a vicious cycle, and it can be very difficult to break that because, you feel like you don't want to do anything, you don't have the energy. But in reality, I've never met anyone who's regretted going for a half an hour walk. I mean, when they've come back from half an hour walk, no one's ever said, oh, I really wish I didn't do that. Everyone comes back and says, oh, I feel much better now. I feel perkier, I feel more energetic. Mentally, I feel more focused and generally happier. And it also comes with, when you do move and exercise, you tend to go outside as well, and having that fresh air, and perhaps if you have a park nearby, it really does help with the mental health side of things as well. Us being cooped up in our houses all day, for a lot of people, who perhaps would rather work from home than the office, which is, it's fair enough. That's a debate between companies and employees. It's up to them. But being held up in one room for 24 hours or your house for 24 hours isn't fantastic for your overall health and your mental health. You do have the argument, if people have Pelotons and stuff now in their house, you are getting that exercise in. But I think it's that compartmentalization of being work in the office, at home is chilling or whatever it is, and then exercise outside rather than have everything meshed together in one sort of area. I think can really help with your mental health as well.
Definitely. And it's having been working from home, those boundaries between work and home life really get blurred. And so you're so right from the mental health aspect. And again, I don't think I've met anyone who has ever said, I really wish I hadn't gone for that walk, or I hadn't gone for that swim, or I hadn't gone to that yoga class. I don't think I've ever met anybody as yet that has ever said that. Now, you support clients both face-to-face and online. Some of us might be wondering if there is a big difference between the two mediums when it comes to reaching our goals. What's been the experience with your clients through those two mediums?
Yeah, it definitely depends on the individual and what sort of support you need for one, and what you want to achieve out of it. Now, being online, naturally there'll be a little bit more autonomy with what you do because you're being trusted to do certain things. Like the workout, I won't physically be there for you, so it's much easier for you to perhaps say, "Oh, I'm not gonna do it." Whereas in person, you're paying for the session, so more people, even when they don't feel like it, they'll still turn up because it's booked, I can't cancel, etc. So there's a little bit more autonomy with the online side of things. There perhaps does need to be a certain level of self-motivation with it as well. The in-person, in terms of results, it really depends. I've had fantastic results with both in-person and online. It does depend on the person and how sort of motivated they are to do it, or bring it back to that discipline side of things as well. I guess with the one-to-one, you don't really need as much discipline because you're showing up and you're paying for that, and it's done and you can go home. Once again, it's sort of that accountability aspect. You'll show up, you'll have your training session, you'll go home, and then you'll come again. Whereas the online stuff is a little less like that in that respect. There is the accountability of, well, everyone does it differently. I'll have calls and sort of feedback with my clients on a Sunday, and I'll check in with them in the week. But it's much easier for you to perhaps ignore a phone call or a message from me, or not do the program that is in the app for you, than it is to just not show up to my PT session. Do you know what I mean? So it really does depend. But the online stuff does give a great opportunity to get a lot deeper into certain things like discussions around nutrition, because any check-in call and stuff is not around a training session. So when we discuss things, we will discuss things more in depth regarding nutrition and lifestyle, and getting into that side of things as well. So it can give you a more holistic approach. I think a lot of people, when they do one-to-one PT, will show up for their session, they'll have their training session and they'll think, I've done it now. And there's less opportunity to have those conversations regarding nutrition and lifestyle. So yeah, I think that's the main differences between the two. Yeah, and I think online is definitely a more affordable option for people, because there's not that in-person element, there's not the space of renting the space, and it's more time efficient for a lot of people as well, because you can go to the gym on your own time. Our schedules don't have to match. We don't, what I mean? But with my one-to-one clients, obviously we have to have slots and stuff booked in, and our schedules have to match. Whereas if you want to go to the gym at 2:00 in the afternoon on your online program, that's up to you if you can fit that into your day. So there's a lot more flexibility in that sense as well, but perhaps there's a little less accountability and a little bit more autonomy with what you have to do.
Yeah, I love the fact that you're able to offer both options, and you're right. The accountability and actually showing up does make a big, certainly in my experience, makes a big difference. Now, finally, as a successful trainer, what is the one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self?
To my younger self, I think, yeah, it's a good question. I think there's two parts to it for me, really. I think when it comes from a client standpoint, is spend And if you're someone who's on the gym floor, especially, spend time getting to know people and getting to know their actual struggles. A lot of people come to you and say, I want to lose weight. And you'll get that across the board all the time. But the reasons each one of those people wants to lose weight can be vastly different. And it does come back to a feeling. It's really understanding those drivers behind people's reasons and why they want to succeed. And that can help you serve them so much better when you understand the underlying reasons for things, rather than just the weight loss, because it comes down to why people do what they do and, you know, their lifestyle choices, etc. And when it comes to things like nutrition, there's a lot of emotional aspect to nutrition. And if you can understand people's emotions, then you can help them better on a nutritional standpoint. So I spend a lot more time getting to know people and what they actually, why they feel the way they feel and why they want to achieve what they want to achieve. From a professional standpoint, I would say one thing in the fitness industry is that there's tends to be a, you know, it's unregulated, but there's different courses that provide you sort of level 2, level 3 qualifications. A lot of trainers, including myself at the start, would get that level 3 qualification, but I'm qualified now. I know it all, you know, I'm done, it's fine, I know it all. But in reality, you really don't. And it's, you know, you don't know what you don't know. And then once you start reading stuff and getting into it, you realize how much you actually don't know. And it's really putting in time into that personal development early, and really building yourself as a trainer and, you know, absorbing knowledge from all areas. That is sort of nutrition or understanding different modes and methods of training. I think a lot of people will just try and niche down really, really quickly, and just go to one specialist area. When in the beginning, I would say you'd want to be more of a sort of an expert generalist, you know, have areas from each different part, and then you can niche down as you get experience and you progress. So yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, getting to know people more on, you know, an emotional basis, their drivers behind exercise, and a professional level, don't think you know it all too soon, and, you know, really putting time into your personal development.
Yeah, that's just so important. Getting right down into that emotional connection with clients, and you're so right, everyone has a story behind them. Sam, I cannot thank you enough. Thank you so much for your time. Now, if you want to find out more about Sam and his business Fitnitiative, you can head over to his website, which is www.fitnitiative.co.uk. That will be on the next coming slide. You can also follow along on Instagram. His handle is @thefitnitiative. Or if you want to read more about his articles, you can head on to the Knowledge Hub at healthhubble.com. Sam, thank you so much. It has been such a joy speaking to you. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you for having me on, Carrie. I very much enjoyed our conversation.
Oh, it's a real pleasure. I'll see you soon.
See you soon, Carrie. Bye.
Bye.